Alright, welcome back to another video on ChatGPT Prompt Engineer for Development. So, because I'm using this Notion to keep track my progress, right? And here I have is this uh, uh, a couple tasks to follow as well. Let me see if I can jump directly to the task for this project. Okay, and also I'm following is the Scrum framework from the Agile Manifesto, a software development, a software development, uh, a software development, uh, a software development project manager. Okay, so with this, I'm looking as well. First, I went through the introductions. The first is document and learning the process on YouTube. Then do the intro and also now take a closer look at the guidelines. I also said that to, which is something that, to understand is the guidelines here. Okay, the I put it onto Friday 12 to Monday 15, and now right now I'm looking is at the iterative process. Okay, so today this is also assigned to me. Okay, so today this is the 2 days I dedicate time to the iterative process. The iterative process. So let me add an end date, which is today. All right, and then this is already done. So this is done. Okay. Uh, and make a quick recap of the entire course, right? Especially when I navigate to the ChatGPT Prompt Engineering for Developers website. So here they describing is that this course will focus on learn how to build and how to use LLM and build a powerful new application using the Open AI API and see how quickly you can develop capabilities that learn to adapt or learn to innovate and provide value in ways that were cost prohibitive, highly technical, or uh, impossible before now. So this course taught by Isa Fulford and Andrew Ng. Isa Fulford from OpenAI and Andrew Ng for Coursera, the co-founder of Coursera and founder of Deep Learning. It will describe is well how LLM works, how to develop in looking at principles that allow us to write effective prompt, as well as how we can use LLM APIs to build capabilities that can be used in our applications, such as summarizing the user review for brevity, inferring sentiment classification, topic extractions, transforming, translating, or transition, specifically translation, or check spelling and grammar errors, and expanding, automatically write emails or notes for you. So I also am going to look here at the couple principles, two of them, that are helpful to write effective prompt as also a way to do that systematically and ultimately a chat bot using uh, Open API, the Open AI API. So the introduction here. So when I jump here to the course, okay. So this introduction is well, it's describing that most of the uh, good practice, or especially most of the uh, content on the internet and articles recommend uh, things like 30 prompts that everybody has to know, which are good for the web uh, ChatGPT interface, where people often use this for one-off tasks. But Andrew and G mentioned that the power lies is on the developer sides, where now we can use LLM APIs to develop powerful applications. And they also have a fund called AI Fund, or a sister company from deep learning that is focused on seeing how they can build products and how they can provide value. So the development of LLM, we have broadly speaking two types. We have base LLMs that focus on generate new, or that predict the next most likely word. Sorry, that predict the next most likely word, and they do that by using training data. So it can be from different source or even the internet. So for example, when you prompt something like once upon a time there was a unicorn, the model will likely to complete with that live in a magical forest with all her unicorn friends. But when we want to ask a question, so for example, what is the capital of France, the model will likely to complete this with what is the French populations, what is the French largest city, and what is the currency of France, right? Because articles on the internet that was used for the base LLM to be trained are high likely to have list of questions about the country of France. So in contrast, we have the instruction to LLM that it attempts to follow instructions. So when you ask like what is the capital of France, it will likely to complete with the capital of France is Paris. So the way it works is you start with a base LLM with huge amount of data, and then you fur- and then you further train to tune it with inputs and outputs that attempts to follow instructions, uh, using also refined techniques uh, like reinforcement learning with human feedback. This is to make the model much more helpful, as well as uh, uh, useful, but it also follows this particular criteria. When these instruction to LLMs are designed or trained to be uh, honest, helpful, and harmless. So it is less likely to get an output with some problematic or toxic comment, right? So you can think of this as a very smart person that doesn't know the detail, and it is helpful for them to tell them uh, the context about what you're asking, right? So, for example, if you ask, tell me more about the uh, Alan Turing, most of the time, most people, if they know that, they know if they know him, they will talk about whatever they pop off from their minds. But in this case, uh, if you can provide context about, okay, what do you want to know about him, their personal life or his scientific works or his role in history or something else, as well as the tonality, uh, like a professional journalist or something more casual. So knowing that, okay, then I going to look as well at the guidelines or the principles to write effective prompt, as well as the most common use case like summarizing, inferring, transforming, and expanding. So these guidelines are made of two principles here. Okay, the first is write clear and specific instructions, and also a couple tactics like define or use delimiters to define different inputs in your the use delimiters to define different part of your inputs. Okay, so for example, one of them is to set up part of these of that input is to define its instructions, whereas the other is to look at this text for instructions. So for example, summarizing. Okay. Okay, cool. And I also look at other tactics, which are very helpful, especially when you are writing prompts, like ask for structured data, such as HTML or JSON, check whether the conditions are satisfied, and check if any assumption follow the task you asked for, as well as few shotting, meaning provide helpful examples, okay, meaning that provide uh, successful examples on how to complete a task, and then ask the model to do that, and ask the model to complete the task. The other principle is the give the model time to think, where, for example, this is so this is similar to a person when you ask them to solve a complex math questions without giving them time to work the solution first, they will likely to give you a wrong answers. So the few tactics what you can do here is well, define steps to follow, okay, which is something they mentioned here. Specify the step requires to complete the task, okay, and yeah, define the step to complete the task. And the tactic two is instruct the model to work out the solutions first, and then yeah, instruct the model to work out the solutions before rushing to a conclusion. So, for example, when you want to see if a student may provide a solution from a math problem, you want to see if that is correct or not. Well, instruct the model to work out the solution, the problem math solution for that, and then analyze this student solution, compare that if it's valid, and then output that, right? Meaning is this is right or wrong. So this is about the guidelines. Okay, so once you know about these guidelines and the tactics, which is something that they're gonna use along the course, then I look at the iterative process, and especially on the machine learning. Okay, this is something that they mention that it's not necessary that you memorize this, but it can help, especially because in the development of machine learning, they have this particularly iterative approach where they have an idea and then they implement that idea with codes or data. They get these experimental results, see what actually works or not by making this error analysis, and then repeat. So This machine learning development process is quite similar to the prompt development applications, okay, or for prompt development, right? So it's a full for mentioning that as long as you have a good process to iterate, make your prompt better, to exactly, as long as you have a good process to iteratively make your prompt better, you'll be able to come with, yeah, you will be able to come out with something that works well for your task. In other words, focus on the process and iterate that to get a good prompt, okay, to get a prompt that works well for your task. And this is a framework for iterative prompting development. Okay, so this is the framework for an iterative prompting development. All right, and the prompt guidelines here. So be clear and specific. You have an idea, be clear and specific to implement that or prompt. Then analyze why the result doesn't give you your desired output. So why you don't get it the expected outcome. Refine the idea and the prompt with the error analysis, and then repeat. Right. So this is the iterative process that again is a full for mention that as long as you have a good process, okay? So you have an idea and then you prompt that, you check that the experimental results, why you don't get the outcome that you want, and then you look at the error analysis to iterate that again. So as long as you have a good process to iteratively make your prompt better, you'll be able to come out with something that works well for your task. And again, this is for one specific task. But when you want to compose task, which is something that they describe later in that video here.
When I've been building applications,
That's right. Something like this. Okay.
The perfect prompt is about having a good process to develop prompts that are effective for your application. And in this video, I illustrated developing a prompt using just one example. For more sophisticated applications, sometimes you will have multiple examples, say a list of 10 or even 50 or 100 fact sheets, and iteratively develop
Exactly.
engineer isn't so much about knowing the perfect prompt, it's about having a good process to
Mhm. Another important thing is Ng mentioned that it is more important the process rather than perfect prompts. So for early development, you implement this. So you try something, analyze why you don't get the result you want, clarify instructions and give more time the model to think, and then refine prompts with a batch of examples.
develop prompts that are effective for your application. And in this video, I illustrated developing a prompt using just one example. For more sophisticated applications, sometimes you will have multiple examples, say a list of 10 or even 50 or 100 fact sheets, and iteratively develop a prompt and evaluate it against a large set of cases. But for the early development of most applications, I see many people developing it sort of the way I am with just one example. But then for more mature applications, sometimes it could be useful to evaluate prompts against a larger set of examples.
Hmm. Which, after all of this is about is to scale that. You know, the whole purpose of this is to see how scalable is.
Of 10 or even 50 or 100 fact sheets,
List of 10 or even 50 or okay.
and iteratively develop a prompt and evaluate it against a large set of cases. But for the early development of most applications, I see many people developing it sort of the way I am, with just one example. But then for more mature applications, sometimes it could be useful to evaluate prompts against a larger set of examples.
Mm-hmm.
Just one example.
Exactly. So for early development,
I see many people developing it sort of the way I am, with just one example. But then for
mm-hmm. So for early development or examples or just one example, we can use this approach. Okay, but then this is interesting. So for one example, we can use this approach. Okay, this iterative approach. When you have an idea, you write the prompt, you analyze why you don't get the results you want, you refine the prompt, and repeat until you get a desired until you get the what works well for your task. Okay, until you get what works well for your task. Okay.
more mature applications, sometimes it could be useful to evaluate prompts.
But for more mature applications, which is this, but for more mature applications,
Sometimes it could
exactly, sometimes it could be useful to evaluate prompts
be useful to evaluate prompts against
against a larger set of examples.
a larger set of examples, such as to test different prompts on
Okay, such as test different prompts. Okay, such as test different prompts on dozens
dozens of fact sheets to see how is
of
average or
fact
worst
sheet on dozens of fact sheets. On dozens of fact sheets uh,
to test different prompts on dozens of fact sheets to see how is average or worst case
to see how average or worst case.
performance. Test different prompts on dozens of fact sheets to see how is average or worst case performances.
Okay, to see how average or worst case performs.
Test different prompts on dozens of fact sheets to see how is average or worst case performances on multiple fact
On multiple fact sheets.
sheets. But usually you end up doing that only when an application is more mature.
But usually you end up doing that when the application is more mature.
And you have to have those metrics to drive that incremental only when an application is more mature, and you have to have those metrics.
And you have okay and you have those metrics. See how see how C average in worst case, C average or worst case performance on dozens of examples. Mhm. On dozens of example. After all, okay.
to drive that incremental last few steps of prompt improvement. So with that, please do play with the Jupyter Code Notebook examples and try out different variations and see what results you get. And when you're done, let's go on to the next video where we'll talk about one very common use of large language models in software applications, which is to summarize text. So when you're ready, let's go on to the next video.
All right. I'll be right back. I'm going to the bathroom. All right, here we are. Welcome back. Cool. Now let's go to the summarize.
There's so much text in today's world, pretty much
Okay.
none of us.
Before that, right? I'm going to keep track of my progress here with now adding is a new task here, which is now summarizing. Okay, summarizing, then inferring, right? So inferring, transforming, transforming, and expanding, and expanding. Okay, so this is already done. Okay, and you can see that this is in progress. I was going to dedicate at least 2 days from today and tomorrow. We get this end date today and tomorrow. So the priority is high. This is on improvement, and all of this will be in this first sprint, right? Okay. Uh, another cool thing here, another cool feature is we can see, for example, is like this, what I have done, okay? And so this is the backlog here, as well as just want to know, just want to look at these kind of metrics, right? metrics, especially on the projects like this as the timeline. So here I can see is, well, this is another project, but I don't want to consider that as a landing page, but it is this, right? And also as the all and mine. Okay. And let me add this, for example, sprint the task here. Just going to add this as in progress, and another in progress, as well as writing the chat bot. Okay, so as writing the chat bot, as well as writing is the chat bot in progress. I hopefully end this by the next of this month. Okay, so if I assign all of this to me, and then and just jump straight forward to that, which is adding an end date as well, and also the transforming, adding an end date here. Okay, the expanding, adding an end date from this, uh, and adding a end date, like that's right, and the chatbot. So we're ultimately going to build is a chatbot by the end of that, right? All right. Okay. Okay. So because this, so we hopefully wants to end this, but unfortunately we have to change the day for that. So we change that, and we begin this. All right. So we begin this Tuesday. Okay, the last week, Tuesday of the last week. Okay, cool, cool. So right now I'm looking at summarizing. Okay.
Just have enough time to read all the things we wish we had time to. So one of the most exciting applications I've seen of large language models is to use it to summarize text. And this is something that I'm seeing multiple teams build into multiple software applications.
You can do this in the ChatGPT web interface. I do this all the time to summarize articles so I can just kind of read the content of many more articles than I previously could. And if you want to do this more programmatically, you'll see how to in this lesson.
So with that, let's dig into the code to see how you could use this yourself to summarize text. So let's start off with the same starter code as you saw before of import OpenAI, load the API key, and here's that get completion helper function. I'm going to use as the running example the task of summarizing this product review. Got this panda plush toy for my daughter's birthday who loves it and takes it everywhere, and so on and so on. If you're building an e-commerce website and there's just a large volume of reviews, having a tool to summarize the lengthy reviews could give you a way to very quickly glance over more reviews to get a better sense of what all your customers are thinking. So here's a prompt for generating a summary. Your task is generate a short summary of a product review from an e-commerce website, summarize the review below, and so on, in at most 30 words. And so this is soft and cute, panda plush toy loved by daughter, bit small for the price, arrive early. Not bad, it's a pretty good summary. And as you saw in the previous video, you can also play with things like controlling the character count or the number of sentences to affect the length of this summary. Now, sometimes when creating a summary, if you have a very specific purpose in mind for the summary, for example, if you want to give feedback to the shipping department, you can also modify the prompt to reflect that so that it can generate a summary that is more applicable to one particular group in your business. So, for example, if I add to give feedback to the shipping department, and let's say I change this to start to focus on any aspects that mention shipping and delivery of the product. And if I run this, then again, you get a summary, but instead of starting off with soft and cute panda plush toy, it now focuses on the fact that it arrived a day earlier than expected. And then it still has, other details. Or as another example, if we aren't trying to give feedback to the shipping department, but let's say we want to give feedback to the pricing department. So the pricing department is responsible for determining the price of the product, and I'm going to tell it to focus on any aspects that are relevant to the price and perceived value. Then this generates a different summary that it says, maybe the price may be too high for a size. Now, in the summaries that I've generated for the shipping department or the pricing department, it focuses a bit more on information relevant to those specific departments. And in fact, feel free to pause the video now and maybe ask it to generate information for the product department responsible for the customer experience of the product, or for something else that you think might be interesting to an e-commerce site. But in these summaries, even though it generated the information relevant to shipping, it had some other information too, which you could decide may or may not be helpful. So depending on how you want to summarize it, you can also ask it to extract information rather than summarize it. So here's a prompt that says you task extract relevant information to give feedback to shipping department. And now it just says product arrived a day earlier than expected without all of the other information, which was also helpful in a general summary, but less specific to the shipping department if all it wants to know is what happened with the shipping. Lastly, let me just share with you a concrete example for how to use this in a workflow to help summarize multiple reviews to make them easier to read. So here are a few reviews. This is kind of long, but here's a second review for a standing lamp, need a lamp for my bedroom. Here's a third review for an electric toothbrush. My dental hygienist recommended. Kind of a long review about an electric toothbrush. This is a review for a blender when it said, so it's that 17-piece system on seasonal sale, and so on and so on. This is actually a lot of text. If you want, feel free to pause the video and read through all this text. But what if you want to know what these reviewers wrote without having to stop and read all this in detail? So I'm going to set review 1 to be just the product review that we had up there. And I'm going to put all of these reviews into a list. And now if I implement a for loop over the reviews. So here's my prompt. And here I've asked it to summarize it in at most 20 words. Then let's have it get the response and print it out. And let's run that. And it prints out the first review is that Panda toy review, summary review of the lamp, summary review of the toothbrush, and then the blender. And so if you have a website where you have hundreds of reviews, you can imagine how you might use this to build a dashboard to take huge numbers of reviews, generate short summaries of them so that you or someone else can browse the reviews much more quickly, and then if they wish, maybe click in to see the original longer review. And this can help you efficiently get a better sense of what all of your customers are thinking. Right, so that's it for summarizing. And I hope that you can picture, if you have any applications with many pieces of text, how you can use prompts like these to summarize them to help people quickly get a sense of what's in the text, the many pieces of text, and perhaps optionally dig in more if sense of what all of your customers are thinking. All right, so that's it for summarizing. And I hope that you can picture, if you have any applications with many pieces of text, how you can use prompts like these to summarize them to help people quickly get a sense of what's in the text.
I feel this is the output from this.
the many pieces of text and perhaps optionally dig in more if they wish. In the next video, we'll look at another capability of large language models, which is to make inferences using text. For example, what if you had, again, product reviews and you wanted to very quickly get a sense of which product reviews have a positive or a negative sentiment? Let's take a look at how to do that in the next video.
Okay.
There's so much text in today's world, pretty much none of us have enough time to read all the things.
Exactly. Which this is the way how they begin with summarizing. Summarizing. There is so much text to read uh, to read about on the internet of things that we have, okay, of things that we wish, of things that we wish to have time.
We wish we had time to. So one of the most
That we have time to.
exciting applications I've seen of large language models is to use it to summarize text. And this is something that I'm seeing multiple teams build into multiple software applications.
Mhm. So summarizing is an interesting feature that allow to do that.
You can do this in the ChatGPT web interface. I do this all the time to summarize articles so I can just kind of read the content of many more articles than I
Mm-hmm. You can do this using ChatGPT web interface.
previously could. And if you want to do this more programmatically, you'll see how to in this lesson.
So with that, let's dig into the code to see how you could use this yourself to summarize text. So let's start off with the same starter code as you saw before.
Yeah, this is start
importing
go
an
for
AI
that.
shipping department. You can also
So you can use a short summarize or extract. So keywords from this, key capability, or keywords, summarizing and extract. Okay, summarizing and extract. Okay.
which product reviews have a positive or a negative sentiment if they wish. In the next video, we'll look at another capability. If you have any applications with many pieces of text, how you can use prompts like these to summarize them to help people quick summarizing and thinking. All right, so that's it for summarizing. And I hope that you can picture if you have any applications with.
So if you have an application, let's say use case, use case. Okay. An application that deals with large amount of text
Many pieces
or many pieces of text.
of text, how you can use prompts like these to.
Yeah. How you can use prompts like this to summarize.
Summarize them to help people quickly get a
To summarize them to help people quickly, because this is the value that it provides. So an application that deals with large amount of text or many pieces of text, how you can use prompts to summarize to help them or to help people quickly get a sense of that, get a sense of
sense of
what's
what's in the
in,
text, the many pieces of
to get a sense of what's in the text or the content of it,
the text, and perhaps optionally dig in more if they
and optionally add a link or the bottom to exactly, or optionally dig or the bottom is the one, yeah, or add a link or a button to optionally dig in more if they wish. Okay, this is a particular use case.
wish. In the next video, we'll look at another capability of large language models, which is to make inferences using text. For example, what if you had, again, product reviews and you wanted to very quickly get a sense of which product reviews have a positive or
Okay, and the other is mhm, mhm.
negative sentiment? Let's take a look at how to do that in the next video.
All right, so that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.